That man talking might be Ray, but I'm not sure. I guess he told them what to do. Now, that's some women. I guess I probably am one of them, but we were just watching the team. I guess Chuck kicked that, I don't know.
Is Country Day the one in green or in yellow?
Green.
Well, they had both, but our colors were green and gold.
But I think I've seen pictures of that colored V-neck green jersey.
And the ones in yellow shirts look like they have maroon
Shorts.
as their other color.
So I think it's the green ones.
Mm-hmm. Now, Grammy, Dad originally went to the Naval Academy for soccer, right?
No, he went for football first, but he played soccer.
But he played soccer.
And he was so great, the coach said he'll be an All-American next year. But the football coach needed him to come back, and so he had to go. I mean, that, he had to. I wanted him to stay with soccer, but of course, I didn't even say that because it was no use. The football coach met us in Atlanta when he was a senior. Bill Saunders had sent the films of him playing football, and the football coach came to Atlanta and took us out to dinner and told him then that they wanted him to come. And he told him that Chuck said, well, I'm not sure I'll make the highest score. That's the way our congressman did it. Whoever made the highest score from that area got the appointments. And he had 2 appointments. And so Chuck thought he would be second, probably, and he could get to go. But then it turned out that the boys that took the test to go to the academies were the best students over at Savannah High, under BC maybe, I've forgotten which one. But it was obvious that they were going to get the appointments. But anyway, this football coach told Chuck that he had 80 available. He had only like 10, and he would give him one. But he had all these others that the congressmen from states like Montana and places like that never used their athletic ones, almost never, because they don't have many people out there, I guess. But anyway, he said, don't worry about it a bit, because I will see that you get a football scholarship. So I didn't think that would happen, but Chuck did the whole time, and Sharky did too. And it came, he said he would get it the first week in May. And the first week in May, it came in the mail, his appointment to the Naval Academy. And that was, of course, very wonderful for all of us, but that's where he really wanted to go and had wanted to go there ever since he talked about college. But Sharky had made him go to some others to see that he would get in, and one little college offered him a pretty good football scholarship, and he went there and visited, and he told us, this is what he said, it's 1,000 footsteps to the girls' college, which is Converse. That's where Sandra graduated. He said it's 1,000 footsteps. That's all he told us about it, to the girls' campus. And but then later he said, I could make it from, I think that's Wofford, but I'm not sure. Anyway, he said, I think I could make the trip or make something. And I said, what trip or whatever it was, he said. And he said, to the girls' campus. And of course I said that was not important when he said that was important. But then he decided he really wanted to do the Navy because he wanted to do the Navy as his career. And it was already settled, that he could have it. So he did go to there, but then he played around, and as you know, he flunked out the first fall after football season, of course. But he didn't play football. The soccer coach needed him. The football coach really didn't right then. They had a kicker come in or develop, I don't know what. But Chuck, the soccer coach, said, well, you can play on our team starting tomorrow, whatever, right away, So he went there and had a wonderful career over there. But it didn't keep him from flunking out because he just didn't study, and Chuck needed to do that. But he came home and had a whole lot of uniforms, a whole lot of Navy things that we didn't know what to do with. And he said, well, I'm going back, so you can just put them up in the attic and I'll take them back. We thought, no. And I said, we don't want to put them up there 2 or 3 times, and but I didn't ever go to the attic. Sharky did. He said, well, we'll put them up there. So he put them up there. And then, of course, Chuck did go back and wear his uniforms and graduate and all that stuff. But he always said it was the best thing that ever happened to him to flunk out. And it was not the best thing that ever happened to us. When he called to say that it had happened, I was the one that was at home, and I answered the phone, and he said, no, I was at school. I had to go to the principal's office to answer the call. My son had called. Well, I didn't know why my son would be calling. Never had called over there before. But I went over to her office, and he told me, and he said, and you can tell Dad, right? And I said, wrong. You can tell Dad. And he said, well, you can tell. No, we talked for like 5 minutes about that. I would not do that. And since he already was planning to be on the plane the next day, it had to be done. So I did not tell Sharky. And when he came home from soccer practice, I told him Chuck had called, and he said, what did he want? And I said, he's going to call you. And he did in a little while, and told Sharky, who about went through the roof. But Sharky got real busy, and he decided, I'm not going to let him lie around for the next 6 months. So he called colleges in Georgia, all around colleges, and he found one that would take, a lot of places wouldn't take you if you flunked out anywhere. But he found 2 or 3. The first one I remember was Oglethorpe University in Atlanta. Sharky thought that was perfect. They were on trimesters and they could take him, and they would take him. So Sharky agreed, and he said, well, he'll be home tomorrow, we think. But he was not to go for a week. So his plane was the next week. But anyway, he did come home that night. But he didn't call but one time, and he said, if I'm not delayed and put on hold or anything, I'll be on the 6 o'clock plane, I think it was. So we went out to there to meet him. Was he on the 6 o'clock plane? No. There was no message. He was not there. And I said, oh, Sharky, he probably committed suicide or something. And Sharky said, I don't think he's that worried about it or something to that effect, But I was. And so we went all the way back home, which was pretty far to Windsor Forest. But Sharky decided, I didn't have anything to do with it, that we would go and meet the late plane, the 11 o'clock plane. And surely he would be on it. So we went to meet it. It was the last plane. And he was on it. He was the last person to get off. I don't think he wanted to see us. But when he got off, he started swinging his tennis racket as he walked. And I said to Sharky, I remember saying something like, Well, he's still the same jolly person. And he was. And Sharky told him, this is not funny. This is not a joke. This is not anything funny. You know, he had a real speech for him. And riding home, I have a feeling that Chuck didn't listen to anything. He was in the back seat that Sharky said, but he really gave a good talk about this. This was not a bowl of cherries. I remember that term very well. But anyway, we haven't seen anything yet, Chad.
We're
watched
just
the video-
listening.
Yes. We haven't actually started. Have we?
Well,
No, we did.
anyway, he went to bed that night and seemed happy as ever. His little dog greeted him well. But we were pretty put out with him, really.
Oh, yeah.
Especially Sharky was. But the Sharky told him he had a school for him to go to. He said, I don't have to go to school for a while. You know, that was his opinion. He had flunked out, so maybe he would just get a job. Sharky told him he had already thought about that, and he had already been out to Union Camp where he used to work, and he would take him out there on Monday and let him look around. And he could see what he would be and where he would be in about 10 years if he went that route. But if he went on to school, he could go to Oglethorpe University. Well, I don't know if Chuck really decided it himself, but it was decided that he would go to Oglethorpe. But then I thought about Oglethorpe. That's where all of them go when they can't get anywhere else, and they smoked marijuana so much that it could be smelled all around the community. But it was the only one that would take him.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sharky took him out to Union Camp the next day, and they went around, and when Chuck came back, he said, well, I don't want to be like that. Those people work really hard. I said, yeah, they do. And he said, Dad said I would be there if... And he said, I don't think I want to do that. But anyway, he did go to Oglethorpe, and he liked it there a lot. We went once. Sharky went twice. I went once because the smell of marijuana was so strong that I couldn't stand it. But it was like that. So we went home, and we were not pleased, but Chuck did go there, and he called us and said he wanted to join a fraternity. And Sharky said, if you have the money, go ahead. But we're not paying for it. So he got a job at the baseball field, which he loved anyway. And he sold hot dogs and Cokes.
At the Brave Stadium?
Yeah.
In
Oh.
Atlanta? Oh, wow.
It was, I guess the Braves had moved there. Yes, they had. And he had seen, they had a farm team in Savannah too. Not at that time, but when Chuck had been there. And so he saw some players that he had seen before. But he loved that job. I mean, he had so much fun. And he told us about a month later, he said, on the phone, he said, I got the money, so I'm joining the fraternity. It was one of the Weeks boys was in it.
Kappa Alpha.
Yes, K.A., the K.A. He got in, he joined with flying colors, and everything was fine, and he quit his job the next day. But he didn't really like his job as much as he said. But of course, he was already being invited. His class, they were making their debut that year because they graduated that spring. So in that fall, that's what they do in Savannah. And so he was invited to parties about every night. There was no way we could keep him from going except to say, you can't go. And then he could have said, well, I'm over 18. But he probably wouldn't have. But anyway, he had a pretty good life. But Sharky told him that I was not to cook, to fix his sandwiches at lunch. He could eat with us at night without paying anything, but he would have to make his own lunch. Because most of the time, he was just around the house, you know. But because he didn't have his job. anyway, about almost Christmas, I said, Jarky, don't you think it'd be all right if I made his sandwich? He's been making it every day. I didn't stay in there and watch him, but he did. And his lunch sandwich. And he said, no. I told him that he couldn't, that you wouldn't make his sandwiches. I said, okay. So I was making Jarky's sandwich that day, and I was making it in the kitchen where he was hanging around to make his sandwich, I guess. And he said, oh, I didn't know you put mayonnaise on the bread. Is that what you do in a sandwich? And I said, yes, that's what you do. And he said, well, I've just been eating bread without anything like that. I said, well, you'll like it better if you put mayonnaise on it. But he said he would try it, so he did, and he liked it, and he put mayonnaise. But that's how he learned to make a ham sandwich.
So when didn't he transfer to Armstrong?
Yes, he when he finished that year at Oglethorpe and had gotten his appointment back to the Naval Academy, they said they would like it better if he would go somewhere to an accredited college, not Oglethorpe, and it was accredited, but he and make a decent grade there, and so he said okay. So he went to Armstrong that year. That was during the debuting year.
Yes.
And so it made it easy for him. But he had to pay for it, you know. Sharky wouldn't pay any more. But we didn't pay any at the Naval Academy. That's what I told Sharky, but he said that doesn't matter. He was supposed to be responsible for half of his college. And he said he never has paid any, so we're not paying for any of it. So he paid out at Armstrong, and he went there, and he made the top of the class and the dean's list, and it was wonderful. So we didn't really see why he couldn't have done a little bit of that at the Naval Academy. But he was set now to go back there, so he was happy, very happy boy. But he went back the next spring. But he went to all the parties all winter. When he came back for Christmas the next year, I guess is when he met Beth, I guess.
I think he met her the year he was at Armstrong.
Well, yes, I think he did too.
Mm-hmm. Or started dating. I mean, I know they
Yeah.
had met many years before, but yeah.
Well, after he met Beth, he really was not interested in other girls. Mm-hmm. He really was not. But there was a funny thing about his uniform on the country day teams. And did he ever tell y'all about his jockstrap?
No.
Well, boys were required to wear one, when they played football and soccer. I don't know why in soccer, since their clothes were loose, but we won every time Chuck had on the old jockstrap. And every time. And so when I would get to the field and walk up to my seat, dozens of mothers would call out, "Did he wear the right jockstrap?"
Oh my God!
Oh my God.
And I just thought that was terrible. But
Oh my God!
and I really didn't know what he wore a lot of the time. Why would I know? So I would just say yes or no, depending on the team. But they thought it was a good luck charm.
Yeah. Do you think that Dad being with Mom is one of the things that helped him actually graduate from the Naval Academy that time?
Turn it around.
Yes.
Yeah. I know Mom would edit his papers.
Well, really, he just did a lot better in every way academically after he met Beth. And I think he really wanted to amount to something. Mm-hmm. And he saw those workers at Union Camp, and he didn't want to be one of those. And I don't think Beth would have allowed it. No.